entries, registrations, and obviously this subject is very dear to people. My name is Balkumar Marthi. For those of you who don't know me, I am Professor of Food Science and Technology and Director of the Center for Well.
Request everybody to please keep their videos and audios on off, please. Request everybody other than the panelists and the other hosts that are there. Request everybody to put their audio video on silent. Thank you.
So yeah, so I head the Center for Health and Wellness in over the last few months. We've had a very fruitful partnership with Amit and Nutrify India to bring a lot of new knowledge, whether it is science, whether it is innovation, whether it is business to business connections and business development. In that vein, today we are going to have a very interesting session where we want to talk to you and for the interest of all people who are wanting to be entrepreneurs or want to know a little more about it, about what exactly needs to be done, what are the kind of, shall we say, 10 commandments of entrepreneurship that will help you succeed. It's estimated that about 90% of startups fail because of various reasons. I would rather look at it saying that 10% succeed. So how do we make that number even bigger? So, yeah, and this is not startups in any single domain. This is an overall piece of data. In terms of nutraceuticals, especially, there is a lot of interest over the last few months, years. It's been going up, especially with COVID. There's interest in improving and enhancing immunity and general health and wellness. So as far as we know, there are some 4,000 registered nutraceutical startups. So we need to make sure that the nutraceutical market booms and we have the right kind of environment and ecosystem that these startups can benefit from. And that's why it's important for us to learn not only from the successes but from also the failures or the setbacks. And today we are very lucky that we have so many top class panelists who have struggled through the entrepreneurship journey and have come up with some very successful stories. They will also talk to you about how we can make a change in the way nutraceuticals are produced, marketed, etc., and what kind of ecosystem is available for support. These panelists are really the top pride of India. They're first-time entrepreneurs, which who have one thing that characterizes them, I guess, it's the fact that they're stuck to their passion, had enough patience to kind of wade through the difficult waters, and then ultimately success has been there for them. So you will hear about that, and to guide you through that, to guide you through this panel, we have an excellent and eminent personality to do that for us, Mr. Chandramouli Neelakantan, who's a chemical engineer with a lot of experience as an entrepreneur. He does a lot of brand consulting, and he's now the CEO of Blue Lotus Communications, which is a leading PR agency. And he's been running that for, I think, close to 20 years now. And he's the author of several tomes in this area, and especially the author of Decoding Communication, in which he talks about what is the buying propensity for brand strategies, etc. He's a managing editor of the Brand Trust Report, and also of India's Most Desired Brand, which probably many of you would have read already. Before we start the panel, we have a very special guest who will give a talk on his views on the nutraceuticals market and the startup environment. He is Dr. Purushottam. Many of you know him. We have met him in a couple of previous webinars. He's the Managing Director and the CEO of the National Research and Development Corporation of India. And under his leadership, the NRD has been serving startups and MSMEs very closely by enabling tech transfers, funding, and patenting services. And one thing that distinguishes Dr. Purushottam in his approach is that he's always a will do, can do person. I've never seen him say that, oh, this is not possible. Somebody asks a question, he's there to tell you how to get an answer. So we're happy to see you here, Dr. Purushottam. Before I hand the stage to you, may I ask everybody once again to mute their audio, turn their video off, and only the panelists, please keep your videos on. We can see you. It would be helpful if you put your audios on mute until such time that you speak, but remember to unmute yourself. So, Dr. Purushottam, welcome and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind introductory remarks. And it's always a pleasure to be part of it. All the people like you and Amit have been doing a lot of hard work to position India as a leader in the nutraceuticals. Of course, we have all the strengths to position ourselves as a leader. We have got the basic ingredients, the raw materials, the food or the horticulture products, the herbs, whatever is required to make India as a number one in the nutraceuticals. We have all those strengths. If we add technology to it, I think it is nothing like that. We can add value to it, and all of us in the process gets the benefit. All the inventors, innovators, startup companies, all of us will be able to leverage from this ecosystem. Are you able to hear me properly?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, sir. So, Dr. Srivastava asked me to speak for about 5 minutes. How I can add value as an organization, NRDC, to promote nutraceuticals in this country. As you all know, National Research Development Corporation was established in the year 1953 with a major mandate to promote entrepreneurship, technology promotion, technology transfer in almost all areas of science and technology. Of course, food, agriculture, nutraceuticals is also a subset of all our activities. We have been doing it. We work with many of the national laboratories like the CSCR, CFTRI, DRDO, Food Technological Research Institute, and DFRL. Many institutions across the country. They could be in universities, IITs. So we have access to all the innovation.
उसका testing अलग है, इसका testing अलग है.
Gentlemen, if you can just keep your phones on silent other than and your videos on off, please. Thank you. Sorry.
Can I proceed?
Yes, please. I'm sorry about that.
So the point I would like to bring to all the participants of this event, I was told more than 300 people have registered and they're all hearing our talk. Really is a wonderful opportunity. I would like to convey to all the audience, if you wanted to become an entrepreneur or if you want to add a value to your business in the form of a technology, we are here to help you, to guide you, and to provide you the technological support, technological know-how to you, so that you can adopt the technology, produce the products, and reach out to the market. So we not only provide technology, we also provide a lot of other things to mature the technology. For example, if the technology requires scale up, we have some small funds to start with to scale up. We also help all the entrepreneurs, startup companies to file their patents, intellectual property rights, trademark, or a design, or a patents. We also file free of cost. We also have seed funding with us. We also make investment in some companies. Okay. We have also grant schemes. We also provide some small kind of grants to further upgrade your technology, value add your technology, so that your maturity level in the process of technology can be enhanced. You all know most of the technologies what we have been transferring, they are at very primitive stage. They are not really ready for commercialization. If some entrepreneur comes forward, I would like to take this technology, but still these are the gaps in the technology. We provide funding for filling up those gaps, make the technology adaptable, matured enough so that industry can adapt with little risks. Okay. Basically, our job is to help the entrepreneurs to cross over the valley of death. We all know that what do we mean by valley of death. If you take any idea to market, the basic in the journey, in terms of you measure the technology readiness level, most of the technologies which are available in the academia research laboratories are at TRL 4 or 5. But if you want to really commercialize it, the technology should be at TRL 8 or 9. So the gap is between 4 to 7 is the gap. That is what we call as nothing but a prototype development, it's validation, testing, getting certification, raising funds. All these things constitutes to help you to overcome the valley of death. So that is the space in which NRDC also contributes its might. Of course, our country is such a huge country, diversity, so many entrepreneurs, so much talent. So the entire country's requirement we will not be able to meet. But to that extent possible, whoever comes to us, we are trying to help them. Recently, we also helped one of the member of Nutrify India. I think this is Esperer. I think he came out with a nutraceutical which can be beneficial to the cancer patients. So we found that it is a great product and we also helped them. So the point I would like to communicate through this platform is that NRDC is a wonderful platform. Many people are not aware. If anyone can seek or anyone wants any help from NRDC in terms of technology, in terms of intellectual protection, in terms of seed funding, or in terms of connecting to the various government agencies. For example, there are these nutraceuticals are such an important product, or it can be supplied to particularly for children under the various schemes of government. So we can also help these entrepreneurs to connecting to those central government schemes. That is one of the support service we can provide. We can come along with you and see to that you will be successful. So these are some of the points I thought I can share with you. I would be very happy to answer if there are any doubts or any specific queries during the deliberations. Thank you very much for all of you to listen to me and giving me this opportunity, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That is very good thing for people to understand where they can go to find some support. And hope we can pass that wide and high. So thanks again. Later on. May I now hand Chandramouli for the rest of the session.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Balkumar. So I'm in, I would say, the unenvious position of actually moderating this session. I'll tell you why unenvious, because the amount of stature that this panel has and the people who have presented so far has been extraordinary and is a beacon to the entire nutraceuticals world. And I perhaps am the smallest component in that. But nonetheless, I hold the envy of this particular panel as well, because it is great to be associated with all of you. So let me start by introducing everybody. But before that, again, a request for everybody to kindly keep their phone on, the Zoom on mute, as well as your video on off, other than the panel, please. I'd really request that, because otherwise your voice comes on as the first voice over here. And there are several people who are actually, probably not yet muted themselves. Kindly do that. So in the esteemed panel, we have today stalwarts of the entire nutraceutical world. They've all been first generation entrepreneurs, created large businesses, and people look up to them in the nutraceutical world as an area which they could actually emulate. So starting off, we have Dr. Mohammed Majid. I mean, there is no introduction needed for him. He's perhaps one of the first progenitors of the term nutraceuticals in the country and taken it abroad. And he was born and raised in Kerala, as with over 45 years of experience in pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, molecular biology, nutrition and cosmetics industry. He in fact introduced the term Ayurveda to the Americans, till it has now become almost complementary therapy, and in the system that they call now integrated medicine. He's a doctorate. He's completed his PhD in industrial pharmacy and worked in large companies like Pfizer, which has given him a great amount of experience in understanding the technology that goes along with the healthcare and in product formulations. He then chose to become an entrepreneur, which is after so many years of experience, he had then decided to use that for his own businesses and came out with new healthcare products, and has taken a lot of, in terms of the herbs, which have also been researched in the medicinal value of some plants, which are not even mentioned in the Ayurveda. That has been one wonderful things, because that's innovation at its trueness. Today, his organization is called Sami Sabinsa, and it's a group and that has emerged as a leader multinational company in research-based nutraceutical ingredients with over 100 international and national awards to its credit. So welcome, Dr. Majid, and we are thrilled to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have also with us Mr. K. Shyamprasad, who is founder and MD of Vidya Herbs. He's also a first-generation entrepreneur, but comes from very humble beginnings and was working as a chemist in a pharmaceutical company in the 1990s. And then he quit his job after 5 years, thinking that he must get into natural chemistry. When I was speaking with him, he was saying that he was getting tired of the smells of chemistry, and therefore he wanted to get into something that was natural, and that was great, in fact, as a product. So Mr. Prasad then did his master's in natural product chemistry and wanted to apply his knowledge to his business and started to have a trading firm of botanical extracts. In 2001, he started his modest firm, which is like running out of a shed, a 10,000 square feet shed, where he started manufacturing botanical extracts. Today, Vidya Herbs has become a very reputed herbal extraction company in India, employing over 300 people. And under his leadership, Vidya Herbs has expanded to presence across the world in places like USA, Japan, and other areas. And he's actually become reputed as one of the very good ingredient manufacturers in nutraceuticals. His company has also been an awardee in many state, national, and international awards. Welcome to you, Mr. Prasad. Really happy to have you with us.
My pleasure.
And we have the third speaker and the panelist is Mr. Arun Kelkar, who's the MD of Hexagon Nutrition. He happens to be an engineer, much like me, and I'm a chemical engineer. He's, I think if I'm not wrong, a mechanical engineer. And with a management post-graduation degree, he spent 20 years working with reputed MNCs, though not necessarily in an area which was to do with chemistry or to do with food technology, but with project management. And he has done concept to commissioning of various lines in the pharma and chemicals business. He's very unique in the fact that at 40, he decided to enter into business using his extreme experience in project commissioning. And at that time, which was the sunrise industry of micronutrients, entered that. And as I said, despite him not having a background there, he actually entered into micronutrients and added macronutrients as he went on. And at that time, it had very few competition. And he integrated macronutrients to now into a holistic nutrition supplements. And he has a brand called Pentasure, which has many variants, right from Pentasure diabetic to Pentasure hepatic and many other areas. He's really grown in that particular area. And Hexagon covers a pan-India market and exports to close to 70 countries. Again, a recipient of many state, national, and international awards. Welcome to you. Welcome to you, Mr. Kelkar. Really happy to have you with us. We have Mr. Suresh Garg, MD of Zeon Life Sciences. And Mr. Garg started his journey when the entire focus of the industry was just pharmaceuticals. So nutraceuticals was really not a term there, though Ayurveda had been at the back end. It didn't really become many things over here. As I said, his passion for wellness got him to the business of functional products in dairy. He's always a believer in wellness, and therefore his vision is that of a promise of a good health, and started having dairy extracts and things like that he created. In the 30 years, his company has emerged as a leader in contract manufacturing of nutraceutical and herbal products, and is a world leader is leading into international grounds and gone abroad to many countries. His leadership is also awarded by the Honorable President, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma, with the National Award in 1994. In addition, Zeon has won over 20 awards, and he's a keen enabler of nutra-entrepreneurs, next-gen entrepreneurs of that which there are many today witnessing this particular panel. And he's helping them by providing administrative guidance and also sponsoring many of their innovations. So panel, I'm really happy and thrilled to have you all over here. And with that, I will begin the first very question. And this I will transfer to everybody, and I want everybody's answer in the panel over here, and we'll start with Dr. Majid. Now there are so many opportunities available. This is just a burgeoning field, and truly what we can call a sunrise field in healthcare and wellness today. What is it that is the biggest opportunity that you see that somebody might be able to catch on to, those who are not really innovating from the beginning, but are seeking to innovate?
Very simple. The world wants natural products. The world is getting tired of mostly allopathic medicines, unless it is an emergency. So if they can prevention is the key here. If we can prevent getting into a disease or delay the onset of aging, that is a very attractive area for markets. So nutraceutical answers many of these questions. Okay, you keep your health rather than being sick. So that is the driving force behind the nutraceuticals. And plant-based nutrition is an attractive option, especially to the foreigners, Europeans, Americans, and many other countries. So that is the driving force. And there is plenty to be still uncovered, plenty. not my generation, the next generation or the generation after. We will all be still doing this one. You know, we will search for healthcare alternatives. You know, the word complementary medicine, everything is out. It's all today evidence-based medicine.
Right.
Okay, so when we can show the evidence that some of these plant nutrients can really help you, it makes a big difference rather than resorting to major drugs to people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Makes a lot of sense. Mr. Prasad, what is your view on what is the biggest opportunity in nutraceuticals for somebody who's planning to enter this area?
Any young entrepreneur should decide what he wants to do in this field. And he has to study what is the market, what is going on, and what is the present situation of the market. And he should have well-versed knowledge about the existing technologies and the products, which category, what wellness category he is looking at. It's not that an entrepreneur all will make herbal extracts. He can make a good testing laboratory. You know, he can make a good tissue culture laboratory. He can enter into plant tissue culture, botanicals. It cannot be that all can do capsules, tablets, formulation. Different kinds of business options are available in this area, you know, starting from farming to the harvest and the extraction, then finished goods, then to the, the formulation and the end user to the shelf, market shelf. So a lot of opportunities are there. So the young entrepreneur should look what I want to do, what should I focus, what is my expertise, where I can succeed.
Very good.
And he should
Absolutely.
start from
I
there.
really find that you find your strengths and then you find where you should go.
Yes.
Map your strengths to the opportunity.
Yes.
I think absolutely right, Mr. Prasad. Really
Yes.
appreciate that. Mr. Kelkar, what do you think is the same? I'm sorry I'm repeating the same question, but this is an introductory question which really makes sense. So Mr. Kelkar, what do you think is the next big opportunity in nutraceuticals?
Nabil.
Mr. Kelkar, you're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Kelkar. Unmute कर लीजिए. आप mute में हैं. For the rest of the audience, kindly keep yourselves on mute, please, and your videos on off, please. Thank you very much again. Mr. Kelkar, please go ahead.
Yeah. So particularly before I come to the opportunities, I would like to say that the topic was why some Nutra companies fail while some make it big. So my point is that failure is the first step towards success, first of all. For the new entrepreneurs, don't get disheartened, even if you fail first, in the first instance, you know. So that is the first step to success. But very important thing is you should choose your path, where you want to go. If you want to go to Delhi, then choose that path. Otherwise, you will end up in the Calcutta and everything, you know. Because yeah, more often the new entrepreneurs constantly look at the figures, you know, numbers, millions and all, but not to choose the correct path. So I think that is one of the very important lessons that one should learn. Now, to identify the product, you know, I always say that even I did myself 30 years back. Suits my temperament, what suits me. Even if I am a mechanical engineer, and if there's a scope in micronutrients, how can I acquire that knowledge? So this is what you have to see: the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. See, currently, if you talk about the opportunity, the first entry advantage that one should see in a way, and marketing of the futuristic e-commerce platform is again an opportunity. Even the threats can be the change in consumer behavior, the product obsolescence. So all these SWOT analysis an individual must do for himself as well as for the venture. Both are important, you know, whether financially I'm strong, not strong, or something like that. And then choose the line, whether it is herbal extract, whether it is another supplements or something like that. But in any case, this is very, very important at the fundamental stage, you know.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let's just move to Mr. Garg. And Mr. Garg, what do you think? in your opinion, while these answers are, of course, I mean, there are some things that are coming through in specific. Is there a specific area that you think somebody who's interested in nutraceuticals, but is confused with so many things, doesn't know their strength? What should they enter?
Actually, requirement of the time is coming up with the unique and universal ideas. Because anything which is conventional will not work. There is a need of latest technology to be used. Not only the product these days required innovation into the packaging also. First of all, the product should be so attractive so that he should choose that product. Subsequently, he see what is the quality of the product. So USP of the product is must these days. One cannot be successful without having the USP of the product. If we talk about any conventional product can go 10% or 5%. See the bigger part of that, want to enter into the international markets, or even you can compete with the other world, you have to have a very, very unique idea. So that is the need of the time. So where we have to hold the Nutra industry with such a way so that unique idea should be coming to the market.
Thank you very much. I think that's absolutely true. The USP and uniqueness matter. And that, of course, is universal across other product categories also. But nutraceuticals, while there may be huge opportunities, you cannot afford to enter the wrong area and then suffer. So I think this combination of answers perhaps tells the audience as to which and how to choose a particular area. But let's just go to the next question, which I'll put to Mr. Prasad. Yes. You are all stalwarts of various businesses you've created in an economic scenario, social scenario, healthcare scenario, and technology scenario, which was quite different from today. If I'm not wrong, your businesses are between 15 to 25 years old or more. And at that time, there was a different type of a challenge. But today, the challenges are different and completely new, which means the technology may have gained ground. You may find faster access to market. You may have multiple channels which didn't exist. You can reach America within a Zoom call, perhaps. So, Mr. Prasad, what do you think are the new age challenges that a Nutra entrepreneur must look at and be careful about today?
Yeah, technology is fast advancing. E-technology, like electronic, 20 years, 25 years back, we have to pick up a phone and then dial the number, get customer contact, or we have to fax whatever content or whatever is there. And email just started by that time. And then the communication was very slow, at that time. Now communication is very rapid. It can flow in seconds, So what we have to, as in nutritional business, what we have to focus is that as far as products are concerned, we should always be careful about claims and evidence. It's a balance. If the claims are like rooftop and the evidence is like very low, we are landing in trouble. The balance between the claims and evidence, how you are going to explain to the market or the customer. What Vidya focus to do is to invest on science only, mainly on science. Scientists do a lot of studies and evidences, if it works or not. If it doesn't work, no, don't touch it. What application you're looking at. And focus on science. Do a lot of cell line studies, that side, human clinical studies. And this. So what market awareness, what you should be careful about is that what product you are giving to be, try to achieve the zero defect with all your experience. And then get a wonderful product to the market. How the success happens is when your product is on the shelf and the customer repeats buying it. This is like a service industry, Any supplement is like take as long as possible.
Continue.
So the customer, see, for example, for example, I go to a health food store. I look for some capsule which I found very interesting, which is very helpful to me. If there are 10 bottles, I'll pick up all 9 bottles and one I'll keep for others. I will think that this product may not be there next time I come. I buy everything. So that kind of interest we have to create in the, because if what we produce ultimately the capsule benefits the ultimate customer and the common man. What is paying $5 or $10 to the one bottle? That benefit will give us return back. That is repeatability of business. It will keep on.
Absolutely. But then do
That
you think
strategy,
this was the same, right? This was the same even when you started. So it's not
Yeah.
changed much. You mean to say the strategies and the challenges have not changed much for the new age entrepreneur?
Yeah, new age and the trend is changing towards natural molecules. Nature's pharmacy, what you call. You are extracting the nature's pharmacy. So the trend is towards nature. Everybody wants to, oh, if I take this, it will be like, it will be safe for me. It will protect, you know. So like that, it's a natural alternative to allopathy. So allopathy and see, for emergency, if you have a fractured your bone or anything, you have to go ultimately allopathy only. There is no other. So for whatever, preventive measures, what you have taken as this thing, we take some antioxidants or some, natural molecules. It will prevent, it has no side effects. And we do GLP, lab certified animal toxicity studies, everything, when we do the extract, when we introduce to the market.
Sure.
So, yeah, that is the future is there. Future will continue.
Absolutely.
As long as we focus for quality. Quality is the main focus. Our objective should be quality, and then rest will follow. Innovation is always very important. Customer always looks for new. What is new? See, commodity is different. You add science to that. It's value addition.
Absolutely.
You add value to that. What you have done, there is a spice. Okay, it's a clove or something. Cardamom. This clove, what is the active molecule in that? And you prove it. You add science to that. This is what is happening. The customer should know what he is eating.
I completely agree with you. This is so
true.
True.
What molecule is eating? Not is just 10:1 extract or something, It's just a rough extract or something.
Certainly.
The customer should have the awareness. He's eating this molecule every day. He should research. He should go to Google and search that molecule. And then he'll find out more information about that. What is the antioxidant benefit?
And it'll add to the consumption side.
Add to the yes.
Absolutely right. I mean, I totally agree with you that and that 9 out of 10 bottles pickup, I also do. So when I go to the market and I say, I do the same thing.
Okay. You are on the same page.
Absolutely.
You are on the same page. Yeah.
So Dr. Majid, I just have one thought for you. And you started off the American business, and truly Ayurveda taking there must have been a huge amount of challenges. Among the challenges are cost of IPR. In one way, you try to register a drug, there's a huge amount of cost in it. You have to think and you have to choose which country you can actually put your money in. So in the current context, if somebody's got a product ready to market globally, what would you think is the way to go? Where should they focus on? Which are the markets that you think are good for new nutraceuticals, specific markets that they can immediately apply to, and where should they spend their hard-earned money?
USA, Japan, then Europe.
It's in that order, is it? USA, Japan, and even in volume, Dr. Majid?
Volume-wise and value-wise, USA and Japan. Europe, the problem is it is 28 different countries, 28 different regulations. But still, Europe is also a very big market. Now, keep in mind, between the three groups that I put together, US, Europe, and Japan, they take 85% of the world's drugs.
Right.
And similarly, 85% of the world's nutraceutical is consumed in these three countries. I started this business when it was in the snake oil era. The word nutraceutical came in 1992. And 1994, US Congress brought out DSHA, Dietary Supplement Health Education Act. That's how it became what you call kosher. So we have a reason to be in the business. But I was in that business since 1989 at that time. But one of the things at that time was you cannot make the claim that it is a drug, it will do the drug benefit. You just have to have third-party publications, which also is part of the business strategy most nutraceutical companies adopted. A third-party literature. And if you are going for patent, which is a brilliant idea. Even Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, when he spoke at the Science Congress in January 2020 here in Bangalore, what he said was innovate, patent, produce, and prosper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
That
true.
is his key message to the National Science Congress. Patenting, US first, Japan next, Europe the third one.
That's the way to go. And what would be the cost, Dr. Majid, for a new company to just have IPRs in these three countries? What do you think is the general cost for them? Or what would it kind of, because even then, one product alone, what would it kind of take?
In the initial years, I had a Washington, D.C. law firm doing this one. Today, we do this in-house.
Oh, really?
We have our own IPR team
Oh, okay.
based out of India, US and Canada. Between all the three groups, they do it. I would say it depends on the legal team that you get to help you. You know, even firms here in India are capable of doing this one.
Really? That's
Yeah,
so nice
you
to
don't
know.
have to go out and shell down US dollars.
Mm.
Even the Indian firms can help you.
That's so nice to know. That's so comforting to know, because everybody is scared about this cost, and you think you have to pay this $10,000 per hour kind of a thing to a big lawyer.
No, US is scary. Europe
Yeah, it
is
is.
also equally scary. And Japan is also not bad, but there are Indian firms that can do it.
That's a very, very comforting thing. I'm so glad to know that. It's really, really nice to see. Thank you very much, Dr. Majid. Let me just go on to the next question. And this I will go to Mr. Kelkar. And I just wanted to know, you know, when a business is growing, when a business is climbing, at that particular point in time, it needs funds. It needs funds to grow. It needs to climb in. So two questions in one part, which is the best form of funding for, let's say, it's about a year old or 2 years old, but requires growth capital. Should it go for debt or should it go for equity? And why? Which one of these two is better and in which circumstances? Mr. Kelkar.
Sure. When I started with a 1 lakh capital of my own, you know, which I distributed my provident fund, and I kept it in the FDR in the bank. And took 70% cash credit limit and started the business, you know.
That means 70,000 only, not even 1 lakh.
Yes. And out of 70,000, I bought a plot of land, which is 1 lakh of rupees, you know. Yeah. So the thing is that it's not the matter, but what I wanted to see is what I can do with my own money before I really take on the loans from the banks or something like that. See, getting a loan in those days also was very difficult. You know, money market was very tight. Even the cost of capital was 18% or something like that.
True.
So it was difficult. All said and done, the thing is that one should look at the debt and the receivables, which is very, very important in any SME or any startup. Because 90% of the SMEs, they die the death in the infancy because of the paucity of the funds, you know, because of the liquidity problems. So it is not a question. I think you should start with your own money first, maybe take some loans or something like that, grow to a certain level, and then look for funding, you know, in a big way.
But when you started, it was 70,000 was a big amount, and you invested.
Oh, yes.
That. Today it is a bigger amount that you need to start off.
Even I sold my car also at 50,000 rupees.
Today,
So
even if you sell a
that,
car,
you know,
perhaps that is difficult to gain the money. So today, the requirement of a startup would be nothing less than a few tens of lakhs at least, if nothing else, to start off.
Yeah,
So,
today we have 11 crore capital.
I agree. So you think even today, because everybody doesn't have 25 lakhs or 30 lakhs to start off.
Yeah, see, the thing is, when you talk about equity, you get from the PE funding, isn't it? So PE funding means after 5 years, you have to make at least double the money and give it to them. You take some 25 crore, you have to pay 50 crore minimum after 5 years, you know. So taking is easy. Many times the PE funding, they are flush with funds. So they will come to you, they'll say, okay, you do this, you do that and all that, and they'll put their money. And then they'll be after you, you know. Yeah, how do you get that return?
Do you have experience of that, Mr. Kelkar? Do you have personal experience?
Yes. We have.
Achha.
Yeah. We too have got a PE funding, but not because we wanted the fund, because we wanted to get into that slot, you know, before we go in for public issue or something. We wanted to have the PE funding for our OTC business, you know. Yeah.
So I think if you're trying to say friends and family and self-funded is a first step, so that you can invest your own risk
Surely,
capital?
because then you get the confidence that
Hmm.
just what you can do with the money, you know.
Hmm.
Even for that matter, when you have taken the money from PE,
Hmm.
we are taken with a very proper conscious that we have to
Yeah.
return the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
It is not
this
that we
does
just
come
run away with the
to
money,
me
you know.
quite often. It does
Yes.
come to me quite often that, you know, PE funding can be also like an albatross around your neck, and you can also be
Yes,
very, very
it is.
pressured after that.
It is.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sometimes they say that what is the IRR?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
So when I was attending a conference, the Thyrocare person said,
Yes.
if they are talking about IRR, are they giving equity or are they giving the loan? You know, something like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah, yeah.
it's a question, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
IRR seems like an internal capital flow decision.
Oh yeah,
Very strange indeed. Very
Yes,
strange.
yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you very much, Mr.
yeah,
Gandhi.
yeah. It's very
So, Mr.
painful.
Yes, thank you for letting people know, because people in every startup thinks that PE is like a dream come true. And once I've got the money, I'm going to float around and have fun. But it can be the biggest chain around your neck in a businessman's
Yeah.
life. I think that is true.
Absolutely.
And unless you have multi-faceted businesses, which maybe one you can sell off and then return the money, or you have to go to the stock market and have nightmares. Something like that.
Thank
You
you.
know?
Absolutely. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for that. Thank
So
you.
I think most of our participants, they will also agree. Suresh
Most
will
of them
agree.
have been nodding their heads.
Yeah, will agree. You know,
Dr. Majid has nodded his head already and said yes in the silent mode. Yes, of course. it is true.
everybody asks me, you know, where are you going public? I said, going public is easy, but we don't want nightmares. That's
So
all.
true. So
Huh?
true.
Yeah,
So
thank
keep
you.
your company as private as possible, as much as
Yes,
possible, till the
yes.
time you can stretch it. I think that is the summary of this, to take it to the level that you can in your own
Correct.
effort. And
Correct.
then only if you need
Yeah,
out of to grow so big, and then you can take equity.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a wonderful thinking there.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Garg, let's just talk about one thing. You know, when you're looking at in an organization, let's talk about one thing. So, what is the business areas you think that will help? How do you look at a business to reduce the risk of a business today? Now, you know, not every product that an entrepreneur comes up with is going to be successful. Many of them fail. In fact, in the COVID times, we know many people who had plans just before COVID that we are going to grow 10x, 5x. All that has come to a different situation, not in the nutraceutical industry because this is still growing, but in other industries, it has come to a standstill. How can a new company de-risk itself by thinking on what should it focus on?
How the new company?
Yes, how can a new company which is just starting off, 1 year old, ek saal purana hai, how does it reduce its risk? De-risking kaise kare?
I think first of all, the company should have a bigger plan, and the beginning should be with the minimum investment, so that he has the minimum risk. That is the most important, because taking a loan means a lot of interest you have to pay, lot of employee you have to take. So always you have to start with a very, very low scale. If I talk about my experience, I have started the dairy in 1989 with an investment of just 11 lakhs of rupees. And the government of India has banned this industry in the private sector. But I have established this industry by getting the state government license, and then put up this industry. And the government of India has banned this industry. Even the Dr. Kurian has objected this industry. We have invested 1 crore of rupees from getting friends and relatives, and then there was a sudden turn.
Why was there a ban? Mr. Garg?
The government, especially the Dr. Kurian, the father of the White Revolution,
Yes.
was not interested at all the private industry should come forward in the dairy. So this is the matter before 1991. So in 1991, the government of India has de-licensed. Then in 93, this come like mushrooms. So I'm saying if you start this in any industry with the minimum investment, but having a bigger goal for the final goal, that is the best. Because otherwise, if any risk comes, then you are in a very, very big problem.
One is this financial risk. You're saying take a low conservative approach rather than a very aggressive approach in terms of sab kuch laga do, don't do that, take a very conservative
That's right. You can plan a very big. Although we have also planned, uh, like the medium scales having 3 lakhs liter of milk every day. But we have started this industry with only 50,000 liters, then expanded to 1.5, then 3 lakhs, then added the value addition, and then shifted into the Nutra. By that time, we are very well established, and now we are very good in Nutra.
Really nice to know that you've overcome those challenges, and that's what is the advice, that start small, but there are challenges that will come in. It could be government policy which you didn't even expect. 91 to 93, like you say, it could be a ban on your entire industry. And what do you do at that time? Thank you very much, Mr. Garg. Mr. Prasad, I have a query for you. I just heard just now that you had come out with a coffee product, and that was innovation that's continuing. I saw some pictures of your plant, and it was so exciting to see that.
Yeah.
That you are entering coffee now, and herbal coffee. So what is this about?
Yeah. We have been
I just
working on
wanted to
coffee.
know from the innovation point of view. So, you're innovating continuously. So I was just excited from the innovation point of view.
We have done, I myself, I'm very passionate about what I do work. When I see coffee, I see the whole look at the coffee fruit. I have coffee plantations in Chikmagalur. We have coffee curing works in Chikmagalur. Then we have recently now just started commercial production of instant coffee. So what I want to do is not just instant coffee. I want value addition to that, where my specialization is value addition. We have the experience of making extracts and active molecules. That knowledge I want to, value addition, I want to put it into commodity. Instant coffee is a commodity. So where we'll have a healthy coffee profile, like you add chlorogenic acid into the instant coffee, or you add ashwagandha extract to the coffee, or you add the taste is also important. Okay, we have to keep the taste of. So what herbs gel with tea is different. Tea extracts, it will go in tea extracts. Like ginger will not work for coffee. So what it blends with coffee, ultimately the customer is important. So why I entered into commodity business, it is like we are working about a lot of coffee extracts and we are doing a lot of work on that. Why not do the backward integration? Go to farm and curing. We have the traceability story, and then then next idea came, why not we start, we are exporting like 50,000 tons of coffee, green coffee to the Europe and Gulf market, and then we wanted to again enter into instant coffee. Now next year we will be entering into freeze-dried coffee, freeze-dried. So we add all value to each product. And then we want to be a unique company in India where we really we can apply ourselves, science to even the commodity.
So the next time I have coffee, it's going to be healthy for me.
Oh, yes, sure.
Vidya's coffee. So this is one extracting, it's a very nice thing to say. From a commodity, you are extracting, like you talked about spinach the other day, you are extracting the vital ingredients. And then you add that vital ingredient to another commodity and make it richer. So this seems to be like you are going both ways. You are actually extracting from a commodity, you're putting into another commodity, value add. So that innovation, this kind of an innovation, what would you advise the new businesses of today? I mean, you have the funds, you have grown very well by the grace of God and your own hard work. But what does a new company look at? Now, I'm sure everybody's excited about tea, coffee, and milkshakes and everything where you can add an ashwagandha and it can become big.
Yes.
So what are the areas that you can just give as a thought to other people to say that, okay, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? Just a couple of ideas for others.
Basically, if one wants to really start work for, business.
Am I asking for a business secret? I hope I'm not asking for a business secret.
No. There's nothing about that. So if one decides to do a business, it should be towards the passion for business, entrepreneur. There is a difference between a salaryman and a businessman. A businessman should look long-term business. He should not like, I want to start 1 year, I want to make hell of a money, and then I want to quit equity or something, I'll just sell out. We are not in this kind of, just get the brand value, and then that is not if you want to be a really entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur because wherever I go, I see how to invest or how to do business. Because the thinking will be always, if I go to a coffee shop, I'll be thinking, how can I do something like this? Or I want to do special or something. I'll be always thinking about entrepreneurship. My idea will go only thinking about how to start a business. That's why wherever I go, I start a business because
Yeah,
that's my,
absolutely wonderful.
yeah. So the focus is on, okay, as a young entrepreneur, what you can do, which line I can.
So what can they do? Give them some idea, something that they can start.
So if he's a chemical engineer or a mechanical engineer, he can do the fabrication of equipment for the extraction people. He can do pharmacy machine, or he can do some, some
so going back to
design,
your
some
earlier answer that says that go into your strength area and do something with relation to that. I think that's what you're suggesting in innovation.
Entrepreneurship is in my blood. Okay, it is missed. So I will be focusing only on, innovation, thinking. I'll be always dreaming about that. It is all built on dreams.
I agree.
But dreams can be achieved. If you can achieve the dreams, when you work very hard for it, go for it.
Yeah.
Set it
Otherwise,
out.
I dream every day. Everybody dreams every day. You're right.
Set it out. Set it out. Why I say businessman cannot be sick, but business can go sick, because the investment where he makes should be correct. Where it has to be invested, it has to be invested. The investment taken from bank or something, if he goes and buys a house or real estate, something,
or a car, a fancy
he will think,
car.
No. It has to serve the purpose for business. Then
So
there is
that's
a success.
sincerity, business sincerity, right? Business
Yes,
sincerity.
that should come into the.
I totally
just money
agree
making.
with you.
Just money making anybody can do.
I totally agree with you. I mean, one more thing. I mean, of course, you had a definition for entrepreneur and a worker, but in our parlance, we say one who works. I mean, an employee.
I am also a worker.
Yeah, but I'll tell you the difference in you and the others. So in you and the others is that the employee is happy in the end of the month. Ki salary aayega. The entrepreneur is unhappy in the end of the month. Ki salary jayega. So it's like that. It's a kind of a complex situation. But yeah, let's move on to the next question, and I'll take up.
Can I
yes, please.
When you're talking about some new areas or potential areas,
yes, please.
Particularly for this one, according to me, I have identified 3 potential areas. One is immunity building. The second is obesity control and weight management, and the third is diabetes control.
Achha.
So considering all these things, one has to keep in mind who is your customer and then accordingly design the product. And not first design the product and then dump into the market. That's the wrong way of doing it,
Yeah.
Understand the customer needs, then formulate the product.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, it is so directed. I really appreciate you, coming into this answer and giving us this direction, because people can then at least look at something that they can move ahead.
Correct.
So that's really, really nice. And unfortunately, India is also the diabetes capital, and there are so many disease capitals that we have unfortunate, distinction in. So we have to really look at some things. So now the next question that I have, just to add on with you, would you suggest an entrepreneur to start from India and go abroad, or start from abroad and stay back in India and come to do work in India? So what would you do? I mean, which is the market that you would address first if you were again an entrepreneur?
Yeah. When we started for our markets, our products, export was the biggest potential,
Yeah.
So we started the 80% export and 20% domestic. Because it was a new concept in India, and it is still, I think it's growing day by day, but still not that developed as it is there abroad, For example, if you're selling, say, about maybe 15,000 tins of diabetic product in India, we are selling 1 container per month in one single country, which is just one state. In one of the Latin American countries. So this is the kind of potential.
So initially what
we thought is that we earn in dollar and euro and invest in India.
So you're suggesting still look abroad for your business?
Yeah, if the product has the potential, why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So earn in dollar and euro and invest in India.
And then come back. So you are truly talking invest in India. This is invest India truly.
Yes.
So, I mean, absolutely.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Because Indian market will grow leaps and bounds in coming future,
Absolutely.
Definitely it's going to be there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelkar. Really appreciate that. Dr. Majid, I have one question for you, which is perhaps a little sensitive, but if you feel like answering it,
Go ahead.
you know, for every entrepreneur, I think failure is merely a stepping stone to the success that he reaches.
Yes.
So is there one biggest failure which taught you the biggest lesson that you can, I mean, tell us, and therefore we all get that experience by your, you know, it going through you. And therefore, if you can just talk about that, what is that one big failure that taught you everything? Or the big things?
Chandravali, I'll come to my failure. And I was raising my hands to
Oh,
add.
I couldn't see. Sorry, I couldn't see.
Trying to add something to what
Please,
Arun Kelkar was talking about.
Yes,
Very
please.
brilliant ideas he talked about. So when I started the business, I had my life savings of 15 years in the US. So I thought that will get me into the business. But my business strategy was different at that time. Initially, I was focused on pharmaceuticals. In those years, the pharmaceutical did not work out because of the waiting period at the FDA. So I got into natural products and I introduced the first natural product for the US market.
Right.
But then, by then, I spent all my money.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the $250,000 I saved is gone. But I had one thing as a backup. I had about 50 credit cards that I can use. America, you can go and drive a car with a $250 credit card. But if you give them $50,000 also, the car rental company will not give you the car. You need a credit card there. So I had that back. It is in the back of my mind. I have the credit support I needed if I want to survive for another year.
Wow.
In case my attempt to succeed in the business didn't succeed, I'll go back to my work. It's the worst case analysis. Okay. Now, what was the question you were just asking me?
No, I was asking the biggest failure that you would have had in the current business and what it taught you and what we can learn from it. What can we all learn from it?
Really, looking back at the last 30 plus years of business, there was no such thing as a major failure.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really, really lucky.
As a major failure because I have never taken money from anybody. It's 100%, business is 100% owned by me. And we are a financially sufficient company. Expansion is all over the globe.
Right.
But the strategy is whatever money that came in, we put that into the business. Okay. And of course, I had my major thrust was my family support.
I was just going to ask you, Dr. Majid, that how did your family react when the first business failed and all your savings went away? What happened at that time?
They stayed on with that one because, you know, in those days, there was another side to that story. I'm not going into that one.
Sure.
That is, how did you look at, it is all that matters is how you look at that. Whether it is success or failure. I call it as a passing phase.
It certainly
you know, it's successful at times. There will be difficulties. You wake up to a difficulty every morning. Okay. Nowadays, I share that with many people. So it is not my headache. But in those initial days, I handled it by myself. So family was with me 100% at that time.
Wonderful.
And they are with me even now.
It's wonderful things. Because without the support of your loved ones, you know, often the will of an entrepreneur can weaken.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important to have. And I think all the entrepreneurs here believe in that. So I think one of the lessons is also to take your family along, you know, take your family along in this
Absolutely.
journey.
Absolutely.
It's so important. It can't be an individual's fight as if they are, it's not an ego fight. It's a fight of, you know, some growth.
Yeah. The family must be with you.
Yeah, absolutely great. Thank you so much for sharing that sensitive and intimate, you know, information. I just have one question to you also, Dr. Majid. What business risk would you tell the new entrepreneur to be careful of? What should the new entrepreneur be careful about today?
Be honest and upfront, because if you believe you can succeed in this one, go out and make your best efforts. Okay. Success or failure is a matter of so many things. Okay. Most likely, if you are honest with what you are doing, you will succeed. Okay. And if there may be some outside forces that you cannot control, you may fail, but don't take it as a failure. Every failure is a stepping stone to success. It is not a theoretical statement I am making. I have seen failures, but like you asked, no major failures. A major failure would have made me an employee again.
Yeah, I think
No
that's
major failures, temporary setbacks. So that's how I looked at it. It is a matter of perception. Do you think it is a major failure or it is a thing that you have to handle? Take it in stride. That's all I did.
It's the willpower and the
Yeah.
heart that actually matters. That's such a nice statement to make. Thank you so much, Dr. Majid. Mr. Garg, I just wanted to ask you one question, and an important one. I'm saying that from a point of view of so many things. I mean, we just talked about failure, so I'll take the same question with you. I mean, you said 91 to 93, there were so many problems that came in government, and milk is a very, very different product than other things. Apart from it being perishable to the highest degree, apart from other opposition, and 91, 93, we were not even in the mid of Operation Flood. So tell us about your experience with failure and what can people learn from it. You're on mute, sir. Up mute pe.
We talk about failure. I think there's a
बहुत sensitive बात पूछ ली क्या मैंने?
there is no really we can say failure, because once we have started and done and there are the obstacles came from the government, that was the big challenge, interfering by the bureaucrats.
That is the biggest challenge. इतना बड़ा challenge तो it's so difficult to overcome.
They have, and these days also we are facing same problems for the clearance, like we are saying ethical company, ethical committee clearance from the government of India, or talking about taking some licenses or phytopharma or the clinical tests. All these takes a lot of time. There is ego comes from the bureaucrats. You are talking this, and taking a longer time. So that's a very, very big concern.
But is it because you're still in milk? Is your area milk also? That's why? Is it that you...
Now, after the milk, we have started value addition, having a lot of strength with the MNC's company, and looking to the value addition, then we have entered into the nutraceuticals. So now we are 100% in nutraceutical, and every time we are associated with many research universities, because lot of knowledge in plenty available in the research universities. But there is hardly changing the concept into the commercials. So where we come forward, so at present we are associated with many universities, and in India we are the first one who has applied for the phytopharma drug.
Right.
So and now we are in the process to come in neurodegeneration, Alzheimer or the Parkinson.
Oh, really?
Drug.
Wow.
That will be the first time in the world. So that type of
wonderful. It's absolutely great. Marvelous.
So all the challenge and taking risk is the part of the business.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think you've really come out well with that.
I only can say to the startups, never disheartened. Take the risk. You must be there. So think positive.
Absolutely.
So even in the darkest time like COVID-19, even you can do wonders.
In fact, the nutraceutical industry, gentlemen, everybody tells me is doing beautiful in the COVID time. So COVID has actually helped all of you. So that I think even in the COVID is the beneficiary. I think everybody has benefited in this.
COVID has done wonders for the especially nutra industry.
Yeah.
Earlier, we are at 12%, but this COVID-19 reached us up to 25%.
Wow, wow.
So after this, I am sure we will still minimum 20%. So although we are earlier, we have hardly any contribution in Nutra.
Absolutely.
But now the whole world know to India in Nutra, Ayurvedic, So there will be wonderful changes, and the startup will come forward with many more ideas.
I totally agree. Thank you very much, Mr. Garg. Just one question too, and participants, if you have any questions, please, you can put it down in the chat and we will look at the chat room and then be able to answer it one by one. Please feel free to put it in the chat room. Yeah. So that's one of the key things. So we will take some questions as we go by, and there is no verbal questions allowed. It's only on the chat room that you need to put it in. We'll look into it. And perhaps may I request, either Amit, if you can take those questions in and you can just note them down and even ask them.
Yes, I'm noting down the questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. May I have Mr. Prasad to talk about the same question? What does failure and how does failure teach you and what has it taught you? You say you're an quintessential business person, where inside is risk-taking ability. Business person takes risks in everything. Innovators also take a risk in everything. What has been your business failure experience and how can we learn from that?
Business is a risk, actually. It's a risk. But at the same time, we have to, decision making is very important. Decision making. An entrepreneur has to take a lot of decisions. Okay. Some decisions may go wrong, some decision may be successful. So we have to carefully study it and take a decision. Calculated risk is what we call calculated risk in business. Even if you fail, you will lose some money, it's okay. Not entire money. We'll lose business. Okay, how much I can afford to lose? And then calculate it and take a decision. Sometimes it's not that a successful businessman is entirely successful. No. He goes through like a passing clouds, some failures, happening every time. Some products may not click, some products will not sell. So these are all part of the game. We have to take everything into strides. Like pleasure is interval between two pains, like that.
Yeah.
So we have to. Yeah.
There is a gap between two pains. That's
two
true
pains
for a businessman.
So it's like passing cloud. We should not be like bogged down by, failure or something. If you should have enough self-confidence in yourself, being started the business, what you look at long term, how you can make customer satisfied. Customer is king always. How you can make customer happy is very important. So once that is there, customer will never back you out. So customer is always there to support.
Absolutely.
So how you can gain the customer is important. And then that's how the business grows, the business relationship. And, after working like 15, 20 years in the same line, like it's a inherent property. And we get along with everything, but sometimes there will be failure.
Of course.
It's not all success.
And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It will make a businessman arrogant if there is no failure.
And what is the definition of success?
True.
What is the definition of success? Success is keeping the long-term business years after years, and then keep the same momentum or speed momentum, and then keep the customer reliability, and come out with good quality products. That is success.
Yeah. In fact, if you do your product and process and everything right, that itself is success. Whether monetary comes or not, it will eventually do come. And I totally agree with you, Mr. Prasad. Thank you. One last question to Mr. Kelkar before we give it to Amit. I would request you to take the questions because I can't read them directly. So no questions, I'll help to conclude the entire session should you like. Sure. Mr. Kelkar, now suppose there is a businessman who started, and it's on the same area of failures, but I just want to ask it differently, who started on a business line and is investing continuously on a particular business line over 1 year and has gone pretty deep, but success has not reached him. It is kind of now tightening, the noose is tightening, financial noose is tightening. I mean, when does a person know whether to stop it or to continue it? This is the biggest problem, right? This is the biggest problem. You're on mute, Mr. Kelkar, if you can just.
First of all, the entrepreneur should have studied the market, studied the customer needs and everything, and done the SWOT analysis in the beginning itself.
Sir, सब कर लिया समझते हैं. SWOT भी हो गया, study भी कर लिया, लेकिन नहीं हो रहा. Business नहीं आ रहा. होता है ना कभी.
वो करने के बाद में भी failure तो होता है, ऐसे बात नहीं है. But unnecessarily keep on investing and all that doesn't make really sense.
तो कब रोके? When do we stop?
Only one word I would like to use, that when you choose a product, you have to look at the sustainability. that the product should be sustainable for at least 5 years or to 10 years.
Hmm.
You know, there should be acceptance of the product in the marketplace for 5 to 10 years. So there, I think
would everybody keep themselves on silent mode, please, on a mute, please? Request you, please, other than the participants. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So there is always a certain amount of risk. I'll tell you how when we started the vitamin business, we said that how do we cover our risk, you know?
Mm.
And we said that, okay, when we have an inventory of say particular vitamins, and we have invested certain money, and if you fail by God's grace or something like that in the initial stage itself,
Without God's grace, sir.
yeah. So the thing is that it will fetch at least 10% more or 10% less of the vitamin prices, you know, those days. So 10% was the risk actually. If you bought at, I'd say 1,000 rupees a kilo or something like that, maybe it may go down to 900, but it will, if it goes up, it will go to 1,300.
Okay. So you know the risk range. So
yes. So that risk we need to weigh initially.
I understand.
Yeah. About the failures, let me also say, you know,
yes, please.
a few words, because that I have not covered.
Please, very much.
And let me be very frank, you know, that we have been in the micronutrient business, we have been in the clinical nutrition business, but somebody suggested that these two products should go for OTC. So
this is the Pentasure you're talking about?
Yeah, Pentasure, Obesigo product, and there are a couple of, let me not name them, but somebody suggested you should go for OTC. Now that's not our culture, you know, initially, because OTC is a big different ball game.
Yeah, it's like FMCG.
Yeah, huge. I mean, it's a totally different year. And unfortunately, the person that we had taken also, although he was little experienced, but did not perform in our company. So it was a big failure, you know, and we lost a lot of money, but we learned the lesson, as you said.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. Maybe you launch again. Who knows? You'll launch again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we know, if you know, once you know the game, why you have failed, I think we can create
then you can play better.
Yeah, better.
Yeah. May I just conclude with one last question for Dr. Majid? Dr. Majid, there is a sense that this nutraceutical industry is a large B2B and sometimes B2C, but you know, the product sells, efficacy sells. What is the role of a brand? How does the brand feature into the mind of the consumer, especially the end consumer, not the business to business consumer, but the end consumer? What do you feel, Dr. Majid?
It depends on how the branded ingredient. There are two groups of people here: the ingredient supplier who creates a brand for themselves, and educating the final market B2C people to create an awareness in that group. So any company that is developing, say for example, I created a brand called the Bioperin. Now Bioperin is pretty well recognized by consumers now. Okay, so but it was the original brand that was given to a product and brought into the market. The trust on and the documentation on that one continued to develop, and a lot of manufacturers across the globe started to use that one. So if you go into Google now, you get over 1 million hits when you do Bioperin. So it's a sustained effort on getting that brand into the minds of the consumer. Then the manufacturer will come back to ask you for that one.
Absolutely, that's such
it's a two-way approach. One, you develop your ingredient, but you also teach the consumer to ask for this one.
Right. So it will create a pull and a push both in terms of wonderful. Thank you very much for those remarks on the brand. And with this, I will conclude the session and I'll hand it over to Amit to both ask the question and answer as well as give a vote of thanks. To the panelists, I must say I'm honored. I am honored. I have learned a little bit more and I'm more humbled because I do businesses as well. But I will apply this all to my businesses as well. So thank you, gentlemen. Amit, over to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chandramouli. So we have loads of questions. So keeping respect to the time, we will try to fit in whatever fits into time, and rest we could possibly email it across. So the first question that has come from is an entrepreneur, and the question is, how can you define being successful as entrepreneur and as satisfied person at the same juncture in your venture? Pretty philosophical question. Would you want to Anyone want to take it, or should I?
Amit,
Why don't you
repeat-
address it to one person? It will be such a nice thing.
Can you repeat the question? Amit,
Sure.
can you repeat the question?
Yeah, Dr. Majid, the question, let this question go to you. So
Yeah.
how can you define being successful as an entrepreneur and also as a satisfied person at the juncture in your venture?
Okay. Okay. It actually, the answer lies with the person who asked that question. To at what level you are satisfied. You see, there are, say I'm in New York, I can go to and stay in a hotel for $100, or I can spend $1,500 and stay in another hotel. But my level, I'm happy with the $100 hotel. Some people want the $1,500 hotel. So it's the same thing. You know, business as a rule, it should grow. But family and your personal comfort is also equally important, without which there is nothing. So please understand yourself, ask yourself the question, am I satisfied with this? Okay. See, when you are young, you want 3 to 4 meals a day. At my age, I don't need more than 2 meals a day. At my age doesn't mean I'm too old. So please understand, we are all in it. We are happy. You know, I look at myself and I can comfortably tell you, I came through some hard times, but at the end I look at it. My business is a success. I am happy because my family is there with me. Okay. If the business was a failure also, my family would always be with me. So I'm happy. You have to look at that way. There is no magic formula that matches the 7 billion people on this earth. It is specific to each and every one of you. Your satisfaction is defined by you, not by anybody else. Please.
Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. Shyam Prasad, the next question is, why do nutraceutical product companies fail, and what should new companies watch out for? Mr. Shyam Prasad?
You're on mute, Mr. Prasad. Your phone is on mute. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
The
can you
question
repeat the
was-
question?
Yeah.
Can you repeat? Yeah.
Sure. The question is, why do nutraceutical companies fail, and what should new company watch out for?
Yeah, as far as, see, we are in the basically ingredient manufacturers, you know, not in the nutraceutical formulation business. But what business we are into, I can say that the failure depends entirely on them, you know, what decision making in the process, what kind of products they introduce, and what kind of ingredients they put into market. So the failure depends on such kind of factors. And the product is important, you know, what products they bring in, and then what they develop, and what quality control facility they have. They have to invest a lot on quality control. If they just I make a product, I sell, is not going to happen anytime. You have to have a good quality control system to control in-process controls, and then a lot of things to be, otherwise it will be a failure in this business.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have this question for, Mr. Arun Kelkar, would you want to answer the same question, because you are into product formulations, you are direct to consumer. We could hear Mr. Shyam Prasad from ingredient perspective. So over to you, if you could also chip in for.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Why do Nutra companies or Nutra product companies fail? What should new company watch out for?
I think this has been discussed also earlier also, you know, that right in the beginning, you have to choose your path, you know, first of all, you know. So all the success, everything depends on that, you know. You have to deliberate on a lot of things in the beginning itself before you really venture into the business, you know. And again, as far as failure is concerned, I think it should be taken as the first step, you know, in a way. Yeah.
Okay.
Amit, can I add to that one?
No, please.
any entrepreneur starting out in the beginning, they should look at the entire thing and then focus on something that they are very good at it. The most important thing I learned in my entire business is a thing called focus, F-O-C-U-S. See, I started out in the pharmaceutical area, then switched over to herbal products. I had plenty of opportunities to go back into pharmaceuticals. I did not. I focused on herbals and nutraceuticals, and I stayed in that direction. So stay focused. You will not fail. Stay focused on what you want to do. Trust me, you stay focused, you are going to win.
I really agree with this, sir, because I'm a victim of losing the focus. I had a venture in the US for 7 years. It did great, and we actually exited selling it. And instead of refocusing on building a new venture in the US, we shifted the focus to China, and that was the beginning of the end of the entire entrepreneurial career of mine at that time. So we lost a lot of money.
I would like to add, Amit, Amit, I would like to add something.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the new entrepreneur, first of all, he should innovate the marketplace, explore the market and study customers' needs, and develop the market customer-friendly products, and not think of just developing your own choice of products and dumping into the market. So I think everywhere customer is the main thing. Customer is the king, in all businesses. So we have to really see whether there's a scope, whether the customer acceptance will be there for your product or not. That is very, very important.
Okay. Mr. Arun Kelkar, this question is again for you. What are the barriers for OTC products becoming big as some FMCG companies? I think there's an English problem, but then what are the barriers in OTC products becoming big?
See, earlier the barriers were the advertising and the advertising cost and making the promotion and all these things, Now, what we have also learned that in futuristically, we are doing excellent on e-commerce. Our products are sold in a big way on Amazon.com, 2mg.com and everywhere. But when you are putting it to the Walmart or the other places, I think we require a lot of promotion activities, And if you do not have a proper format or proper person to handle that, the money goes down the drain.
Right.
That's the story.
Amit, can we just keep it to the last one question because we are already running out of time, and then I can conclude if should you want.
Sure. So one last question to Mr. Suresh Garg ji. Suresh ji, the question is, how can startup companies with no or zero marketing or low marketing budget can effectively communicate with its proposition to the target customers, which could be in your case B2B, but then when the funds are less and marketing budgets are less, how do you effectively communicate to your customers? Suresh, I think you must be on mute.
Mr. Garg, mute now. Thank you.
If we talk about, we are into totally B2B business, and we are hardly much spend the money on the marketing. So I think that's the best. Or these days, because of the digital marketing, e-commerce is also a platform where you need a minimum investment for the marketing. That's I think.
Sir, no, I totally agree with you. In fact, even in B2B, in your nature of business, there are many players who are startups, and they may have budget challenges because you at this stage have become big enough that you can engage with any large company and get into direct conversation. That's not the case with a startup company which is trying to get into the same business like yours. So with the low budget, what would you recommend and how would you want to take it?
If you have a really low budget, you can always have a joint venture to make it bigger also. So with that, you can go forward, even you can make your product very strong if even a very small money you are investing, having a joint venture, doing a good marketing, and so on.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Chandramouli, I think rest of the questions I'll
Sure.
take an email and share it to the
Sure.
panel. And
Sure. Thank you
Chandramouli-
very much. I'll just conclude. So again, a thank you to everybody. But before that, I just want to talk about the summarization of this entire program, and if possible, if I can do justice to that in a nutshell. I mean, this I'm collectively saying. So if I were to say that the entire conversation is perhaps on find a niche that you understand. If you're into a business, especially for the new innovators, go into an area that is your strength. It could be anything. Nutraceuticals is big. The market is exploding. India, worldwide. We already understand from conversations that it's US, it's Japan, and then Europe. That's both by volume and by value, which is going up. Start there because it kind of gives you a very good idea. There have been statements that says that, you know, you can get your money there and invest back in India. But find a product set or a service set, or it could even be just a support structure set, which just supports the entire industry, but must be an area of strength. The second may sound philosophical, but is very true. Be passionate, be patient, keep your family with you. You must take the loved ones with you. There have been statements on start conservatively. Don't start big. Start conservatively preferably with your money, with your friends and family money. Experiment, see success, and then go out. Already statements and nods have come in on private equity is not the dream world. It is not going to give you access to life, please. So be very careful when you give away equity. Equity is precious. Over a period of time, you lose equity, you will lose perhaps, it's like giving away a part of your arm. You only give it in the most selective cases. Be careful how you use your funds. Receivables are important. So it's like a whole host of real nutshell. If I were to compile this into a book, I think I will make some money as a bestseller for sure. So that's one of the key things. But I think, manage your money well. Failures will come. Failures will come. But at every time, keep your mind calm. It's how you think that matters. Just as satisfaction is a part of your mindset, so is how you fail with or deal with failures. So that's the key findings that we have. But the end of this conversation can go in the fact that if you are part of this conversation, you know, if you're listening to this conversation, then you're a privileged lot because you've listened to the brightest and the biggest minds in the nutraceutical industry, and you have learned from them. But if you were to apply those things with passion and everything else that we spoke about, perhaps you are in the next sunrise industry of the world, if not just the country. So wish you all the best, and thank you panelists, and thank you for having me as your host and moderator. Thank you for Amit and Nutrify India to host such wonderful programs, and really you're doing a great job. And I take your leave with that. Hand it over to Amit for a few last words, please. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chandramouli. And this has been a very dream to me to get entrepreneurs and nutraceuticals. My belief is after working in America, as I said, challenge that I found is that India actually does not have infrastructure and support system for the entrepreneurs in nutraceuticals to emerge and compete in the international platform. And it can be seen, there are a handful of success stories. We have 4 of them here with us, and not that India has many to talk about. But when you look at United States, when you look at Japan, it's amazingly high. So I left my career with Dr. Reddy Labs and joined the government to set up an infrastructure, and then rolled out Nutrify India. In 5 months, we have commercialized $5.4 million worth of deals for the startup community in India. We're working with the ministry for trying to create a category that helps the nutraceutical community. And I really need help from all of you and the panelists to see that at least in next 2 years, there's a ministry focused for nutraceuticals, and India emerges as great over there. For now, this is good. And thanks so much for your time, and look forward to working with you closely to make India a leader in nutraceutical, a nutraceutical hub. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank the
you.
audience as well. I thank the audience as well.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.